Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to a scene for the Empire of Thorns. This scene finds the player characters in Belvedere Castle, the seat of the actual court, which is currently under the control of the Autumn Court. Belvedere Castle, uh, from the outside, it looks pretty much as it does most of the year, although there's sort of an indefinable air of fear and other that hangs about it at this time of year. Most of the trees in Central Park have lost their leaves by now, and so that only adds to the sort of foreboding hanging about the place. On the inside, once you pass into the hedge portion of the freehold, it's significantly more foreboding. Um, there are torches on the walls, and if you look at the torches for long, you would probably swear that you can see faces twisting in the flames every now and again. Um, if you look closely at the walls of the freehold itself, they appear to be very, very close grown hedge with short, prickly thorns. You can safely stand close to them without harming yourself or anything of that nature. But they're very clearly there, and it is a little daunting. Here and there, growing along the hedge parts, are what appear to be jack-o'-lanterns, still attached to the hedge, still hanging from certain places, but very much carved and lit. And even almost 3 weeks after Halloween now, they all are still right there. None of them have really succumbed to a great deal of rot or anything like that, but some of them are looking a little sicker, shall we say. Once you make your way into the throne room, uh, which is a long hall that is normally used for formal functions like trials, there are several characters who are already present. Will Morgan, Dr. Will Morgan, one of the Paladins of Shadows, is present here, and he's standing close to the accused, David. Um, Also present is the Sun's Tongue, emissary of the Summer Court, Cami Reyes, and the Constable of Califaction, another emissary of the Summer Court, Devon. Those of you who do you all have politics or lost lore or anything like that?
Soren has lost lore, but he's met Devon before, at least
Okay,
once.
okay. Um, uh, Deborah, uh, what?
Nelson.
Nelson?
Yep.
What about you two?
I have no
Technically, I'm not
politics.
sure. Do
I have
you?
no politics, and I haven't bought any laws. Didn't really come up.
Uh, I just made mine a specialty
Okay.
in like occult.
And
Okay.
And Nelson, you don't have any?
no, no, I don't have politics. And what was the other things? What was the other thing you said?
Lost lore or changeling lore?
Nope.
Occult might work too, yeah.
Occult. I might have occult actually. Yes, I have occult too.
I was
Okay.
going to say, if you were a Darkling without a cult, Soren was going to hit you.
I've got a cult.
Those of you with applicable skills, just to run it down, um, a Paladin of Shadows is a warrior and usually a bodyguard of the Autumn Court. The Constable of Califaction is the lawman, as it were, of the Summer Court, and usually of the Freehold itself. In this case, that is his job, basically, is to enforce the laws of the Freehold. And, of course, as I said, Cammy, the Sun's Tongue, she's the one from the Summer Court who can come around and not kick your ass, but still get her point across. that's usually something that you don't get from the summer port every day.
Okay.
So, the queen herself has not yet entered the room.
Eat it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Get it.
So is this pretty much? Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask. This just kind of time for the PCs to kind of just interact up until.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Iris is just going to be sat at one of the wherever the seats are. She's just going to be sat down, doing a little needlepoint.
Soren is. He's probably just kind of examining the place, kind of taking everything in. He has been kind of interested in the Autumn Court, so he's kind of just getting a feel for the atmosphere at the moment.
There are a couple of other members of the Autumn Court that are present. You could almost overlook him at first, but sitting at the very front, just to the right of the aisle, is what looked originally like a pile of used clothing that had just been left there. But as you look closer, it turns out it's a really, 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 really old man, covered in dust and cobwebs, with a tweed jacket on that looks pretty threadbare here and there.
Ooh, all right.
And he's just slowly paging through a book.
All right. I will be talking to him in just a second, but I think I have to get up. My doorbell's ringing.
Okay.
I shall be right back.
Sebastian is looking everything, and probably at Will Morgan is the Paladin of Shadows, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he'll be taking a careful look at Morgan, as he himself is a warrior type and would look into maybe eventually becoming a Paladin of Shadows.
Fair enough. Each of the courts have their own kind of warrior people, but the Warriors of Shadows are the Autumn Court ones. To be fair, the Summer Court is basically all warriors, but that's something to discuss in character.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. So yes, Will is a Paladin of Shadows. You are correct. That he is. The Paladins of Shadows are the warriors and bodyguards of the Autumn Court. Yes, pretty much nailed it. Thank you. Thank you for filling in while we were checking.
That's okay.
Hmm?
That's okay.
Thank you. So, okay. What are the two of you doing then? Other than watching the Paladin of Shadows.
Like I said, I'm kind of sitting there doing some sewing.
Yeah.
If your
Go
character is watching the Paladin of Shadows, Nelson,
Yep.
you'll notice that he kind of looks over you at one point and meets your gaze. But it's not a threatening look. It's just more of a kind of a I notice you noticing me look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he'll kind of look back at the prisoner, not wanting to really take his attention too long off. But
Well, yeah. I mean, Sebastian's eyes would pretty much shift between Will and the guy being shrouded and David, and he would be standing, let's say, arms crossed and leaning against the wall.
okay.
Okay.
So, what are we up to?
We waited for you, Senpai.
More or less,
Oh,
yes.
oh, y'all were just waiting on. Oh, I thought the other PCs were
Yeah,
going to do
yeah,
a
we
thing.
were
I'm
all kind
sorry.
of sitting around doing our thing. I was doing some sewing.
Okay.
He was
Yeah,
eyeing
Dorothy.
up the people, sizing them up.
Okay. My bad then. Can I get a estimation of this guy's seeming?
The guy that's sitting up at the front.
Yeah, with the book in his hand.
Um, it's going to be a wits plus occult roll. Your specialty definitely counts, and you're at +3 dice.
Okay,
So
that
have
tells me a
a
lot. That's 10 dice actually.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, buddy. So
Oh, Lord.
Oh,
it's 3.
Yeah, he's like you. He's a darkling antiquarian.
Oh, buddy. So Soren's eyes kind of go wide real quick because I don't think Soren's ever actually met another Darkling yet. Um,
stop.
so to meet a Darkling and one that shares the same kith as him, that's definitely enough for him to go over there and at least kind of, yeah, senpai.
If you go over and to him, yes, he is looking through a book. You can't obviously. I mean, you can't see the copyright on it, but you would have to guess it's from sometime in the late 1800s, and it looks to be some sort of book on animal anatomy. It's got those kind of like hand-drawn, almost woodcut illustrations that show the different portions of what was probably a dog. But in context, it's very, very hard to tell exactly what you're looking at. And he's just slowly paging through this book. Every time he moves, little dust motes kind of scatter.
Um, he'll actually just kind of look down. He'll just say, "I'm not much of an expert on any kind of biology, but can you really get that good of information from such a relatively outdated piece of literature?"
He looks up at you, and it's a very slow, deliberate turn of the head. And his eyes fix on you and stops for a moment. And he says, I imagine you'd be surprised what you're actually very good at. He looks back at the book and brushes it very, very slowly as though he's brushing something off of it, but his hand moves significantly slower than you would if you were actually trying to brush something off. And he says, there's very little information that cannot be found and properly understood within the pages of the correct tone. There is actually, now that you're up next to him, you can see in front of him and on the chair next to him and under the chair next to him and under him, there are just stacks of books. And they all look to have been sitting there for a very long time. But then again, sitting next to this guy, they would probably look that way pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Then he'll just ask the guy, is there something specific you were looking into, or are you just reading to learn at the moment?
Takes a deep breath, slowly. Study is its own reward.
Is it an annoyed breath?
No, not at all.
Okay. It's just very slow. Okay.
Yeah. Everything he does is slow
Okay.
and very deliberate. He motions to the to the stack of books on the chairs and says, "Would you like to sit?"
Yes, if you would be so kind. Thank
He
you.
moves the books off the chair. Now there's no leg room whatsoever, but he has made room for you on the chair next to him.
Yeah. Then he will go ahead and just sit on down, and he'll look to the man and he'll say, my studies have been particularly focused on history. Now, it seems that I have been gone for quite a while, but while I do apologize if I imposed upon you too much if I asked this, but if you perchance have any books related to history in this deck, may I please take a look at them?
He nods very slowly and he leans forward and begins to just gently touch the different books, and eventually he'll grab a large, thick. It's about a 7 or 8 inch thick book,
Ooh.
and it's about the size of your average textbook in terms of like breadth and height. And he just lifts it up as though it weighs almost nothing. I mean, not quickly, obviously, because he just doesn't do that. Blows on it, and you are absolutely convinced that he blows more dust onto it than off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then he just turns and hands it to you. And there are no words at all on the cover.
Interesting. We'll just kind of open it up and just see more of what's in this particular
Okay.
tome.
How's your Greek?
Ooh. Not its best, I can assure you.
If you open it up and you kind of look like you're having trouble with it, he'll say, "Oh," and he'll reach over and take it from you for a moment. He'll brush the page slightly and set it back down in front of you, and now it's in English. And what you're reading is appears to be the works of someone named Herodotus.
Intelligence academics role with a specialty in history.
Sounds great.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So
And
10.
go ahead and take two extra dice too.
Okay. Okay. It's only 2.
Okay. Yeah. Herodotus was a very important historian. The specifics of how important and such escape you at the moment, but definitely an interesting figure and certainly a good place to start.
Okay.
Huh?
Then, for the moment, Soren will kind of just look into this book, just read it for a little bit, and I think now I'll pass on the spotlight to the other PCs, that way they can get stuff done.
Okay. Is there anything that either one of you would like to do before we get on with court proceedings, either Deborah or Nelson?
I'd be interested in talking to Will Morgan, but he'll probably wait till after the court, as Will Morgan is probably busy, like watching David right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'd notice that Will basically has his attention drawn between David and the Queen. It seems as though just as a precaution, he's making sure that David doesn't do anything to the Queen. Or do anything in general, but specifically to the Queen. Being that she's a child.
Yeah.
Just to point it out.
That does seem like his MO.
Deborah, anything that you'd like to get done?
Not really. Iris is, like I said, sat there sewing away, generally trying to stay out of the way until she's needed, or until the
Okay.
trial starts at least.
Great.
I will say that Sebastian he won't get in between David and the Queen, but he'll place himself somewhere that if he just runs forward, he will be in the way.
Okay. Good to know.
Uh,
All right. So as you are all waiting, the very first thing that's going to happen is that there's a subtle shift in the court, just in the air in the court, like like an air pressure change, and the antiquarian next to that you've been speaking with, Soren, will look up and just kind of go, hmm? He's now paying attention. We'll shift, look towards the back, and I'm sure Cammy and Devin will as well. The light in here doesn't increase any, but you can feel your focus drawn towards the front. And the first person to come into the room is a tall woman with a grotesquely exaggerated smile on her face, wearing black and white checked mop. And she moves with a grace and fluidity that is almost entirely supernatural. As she enters the room, she's basically capering, spinning, cartwheeling, that kind of thing. And like I said, just has a very disturbing appearance about her. The smile across her face is entirely too wide and entirely. It doesn't look like it started out that way. Let's put it that way. Somebody has made this smile. And she basically capers into the room and stands in the front for a moment, bows, and says, "All rise for Her Majesty, Queen Mir." And the Darkling Antiquarian, who was the only NPC that was presently sitting, stands.
Soren also stands.
Yep.
I stand.
Just a small note. Soren seems a lot more comfortable than he normally has been. Could be a combination of things. It could be the fact that, people of his own goddamn seeming are in the room right now.
Always helpful.
Shortly behind this horrid-looking jester, a young girl comes walking into the room with dark hair hanging down mostly in her face and such. She moves in a way that is a little too stiff for a child, but reminds you of certain aspects of rigor, perhaps. She's almost entirely silent, and she just makes her way up, walks over onto the dais, and has a seat on the throne. Spreads her the white nightgown around herself modestly, and with eyes that are milky with the film of death, she looks out across all of you and says, "Be seated."
Sebastian will sit. Of course.
Soren will also sit.
So does the Darkling, of course.
And I'll sit down as well, because, why not?
Every NPC I have defies the Queen. Revolt. No, they all sit.
Full hand, guys, roll initiative.
What are we doing here, Majesty?
Fuck you! No, they sit.
So, once everybody has sat down and kind of quieted down, not that everybody was being like, cacophonous or anything, Mir, looks over at Will and says, "So, what have we here?"
We have a bright one of the summer court accused of lewd lascivious activities with minors.
And she'll look then to Cammy and Devin. This one of your court has been brought before me.
Now, I'm going to take a moment to describe these two NPCs right now. Devin looks like he's barely holding back a very serious fury. His wrath is showing right now. Cammy Miss Reyes seems a little more in control of her indignant anger, but she looks tense.
She's the one to be afraid
And
of.
she nods at Mir and said, "Would your Majesty repeat the question?"
This scion of your court has been brought before me.
It would appear so.
Mir sits there for a moment, and she seems almost to have spaced out. But those of you who are keeping an eye on her can make a composure plus, is there empathy on the sheet still?
Whitson.
A wits empathy roll. It'll be -1 die for. No, actually, no. Nobody's got it. You're all good.
Yeah,
Just roll.
Soren doesn't have it. Anyway, even with his max
Okay.
dice pool.
Deborah, Nelson, did you roll?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Ooh, get it!
Nelson's got 2. Nice.
Oh, he's got 3. He's
Three.
re-rolling 1.
3.
Roll it again. Let's go. Ah, dang it.
Alright.
3 is still great. To everybody else, it looks almost as though the queen has just kind of lost focus. You pick up on what's going on because of subtle cues like the fact that she nods slightly. She's listening to someone that you don't see.
Ah, damn it.
Oh, buddy.
So close.
And, the others also, I mean, the NPCs apparently understand what's going on, but yeah. To Soren and, oh shoot. Iris, you don't know exactly what's going on here, but yeah. Nelson, your character has picked up on the fact she's just straight up listening to somebody else.
Sebastian will look at that and will actually smile. He'll have a grin on his face.
After a moment, she'll look in Ivy's direction, and she'll say, "He is here at your request?"
I take it you mean Iris's.
I'm sorry, you're right. Iris, yes.
Yeah. She's going to stand. He was being chased. We thought that it best to bring him before the court because we all know what it is like to be chased and have no help. If he deserves the death, then I'm sure that he will get it. I am fairly certain he does, but that is a matter for the courts, not for outside of the courts.
She nods. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Mir nods slowly, and she looks to Cammy and says, "This one escaped you."
Her eyes narrow at that. I wouldn't say that.
Then why was he being chased?
He wasn't in our custody.
So now he is in your custody and you are ready to try him.
We've already tried him. He was due for execution.
He was tried in absentia.
She looks like, really? Blink, blink, really? Her lips thin.
Was he given a chance to speak in his defense?
The evidence that was brought against him was insurmountable.
The Autumn Throne recognizes the Sun's Tone's words, but also notes that the specific question the Autumn Throne commissioned was not answered.
What I want to know is when the summer lost its ability to hold trial and judge its own.
The room darkens slightly and grows a little bit colder, and a breeze blows through from hell, you don't know where. There's nowhere a breeze could come from.
You just had to piss her off, didn't you?
But
Someone had to use that darkness too.
Mir stands up and she says, "The Autumn Throne reminds the Sun's Tone to mind itself. You are in the presence of the leaden mirror, and while we respect the Iron Spear, this is not your time."
You respect us, and yet you didn't send him back to us.
This is the first time I have had an opportunity to be fully apprised of what's happening.
And why did you need to be fully apprised? Respectfully.
She turns towards Iris and kind of, you can see a very slight smile play across her face.
Nobody had told me it was of the summer court.
She slight smile plays across her face, and she says, "One of my own recognized a hint of our domain in the heart of your courtier. Out of respect for the fear that she found, she decided to make certain that this was not one fleeing the others, or that this was not one fleeing loyalists. This is not an attempt by my court to intervene or to stay the hand of summer. This is merely caution out of fear."
She'll point over at Soren, and she'll say, "Is he one of yours too?"
I do not know this.
Because he looks pretty settled in with yours.
I do not know this.
She'll nod. Well, if it's the dictates of the court that we need to carry out these proceedings, then the Iron Spear respectfully follows your wishes.
She nods. Now, please, Sun's Tone, answer the question I have been asked. Has this one been permitted to speak in his own defense?
His victim said enough for him.
She nods. She turns to the assembled audience here and says, "Before I allow him to speak, do any of you have any questions or any requests?"
I have one question, but it is not likely to be of great importance. It may speak somewhat to the nature of the matter.
She nods.
And Iris will ask David, what is it you like about my eyes?
He'll kind of look at her and he'll say, the colors. When I was away, I was kept away from all color. There was no color where I was. I was. He'll shake his head and he'll say, it's the colors, okay?
Our question is he dying?
You have to roll.
Yeah, but the thing is, everybody else gets to roll as well.
Yep.
Yeah, each one may at least whine on it.
Yeah, because she
And then
doesn't know. She has her own suspicions, but it's more about whether the Autumn Queen and the others pick up on it.
Oh, and also, can I get a quick politics roll, Johnny?
Sure. Yeah, for what?
Cammy just straight up calling out somebody that wasn't even like the focus of the conversation.
That was scandal.
Huh?
That was scandal.
Nelson, did you want to take a roll to figure out if David is telling the truth?
To be honest, it's mostly the NPCs
Yep.
that she's trying to get to see this.
What's the roll?
Okay. It would be wits politics, I believe.
Oh, that's not gonna be. I think that gives me 1 dice.
Wits empathy for noticing David. Wits
Oh,
politics.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Wits empathy. Yeah.
Wits. Oh wait, wits empathy. Yeah. Plus. Two.
Okay. Did anybody else get any successes?
Mm-mm.
Nope. Like I said, the main thing she's doing it is the main reason she's asking it is so the NPCs can spot the
Right.
lie.
Sebastian, he seems to be telling the truth. From what you can tell, it was the color around Iris's eyes that really caught his attention.
Okay. And what can you go back through what he said again? Or was just
To make a long story short, Iris had asked what it was about her eyes that had caught his attention, and he said that it was the color that during his durance he was kept from any kind of color and didn't see any color. So.
in that case, you'll just watch for now. Watch him
Okay.
and watch.
The queen nods to Iris and says quietly, "Thank you." And then she will turn and look at David. And she will say, I'm sorry, hang on. The Iron Spear has been satisfied of your guilt. and it is not my place to question their already passed judgment. You stand accused of the crimes against children. And apparently, His Majesty Huon was satisfied with your guilt. Your own court has determined to kill you. These are your last hours. I will not commute your sentence over the will of your own monarch. But I ask you now to think, to take a moment to really understand that the grains of your hourglass are rapidly leaving. I can see it, even if it wasn't my job to decide. I can see death clinging to you and surrounding you. Now, what do you have to say for yourself? She, by the way, looks like she's just waiting for the main course to be served.
He'll take a deep breath. He'll say, I never meant to hurt anyone. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I wasn't trying to... I never forced myself. Please. I don't want to die. He'll kind of take a deep breath and shake his head. You don't understand what it was like. There was nothing there. He kind of gets desperate. Will put a hand on his arm, basically, like clenching him a little bit, but not so hard to hurt him, just to stop him if he tried to bolt again. Please, Your Majesty, I beg you, please. You're the ruling monarch. There must be something you can do. Please.
Things I can do. But there is nothing I will do.
Why? Have mercy, please. I beg you. I'll do anything. I'll serve any punishment.
It is not my job to judge you for the acts that you've undertaken. The final judgment of such is reserved for those above us. And I cannot usurp that power. All I can do is send you to that judgment. And she holds her hand out, and as she does, shadows begin to kind of swirl around the room, and they slowly draw in closer and closer to him. You have the impression that there is a noise filling the room, but you don't feel anything moving hitting your ears or anything like that. There's this shriek coming from these things that doesn't move your eardrums. And as they pass closer and closer, I'm going to need willpower rolls from all of you, actually. The Darklings will be at full dice pools. Anybody who's not a Darkling is going to be 1 point down. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure I'm fine.
Yes, you are fine.
Soren's got 2. Is he good?
Yep.
Yeah, I got 2.
Did you roll those 10s again?
That was for Will.
Okay. Will's okay.
Tim, did you roll those 10s again?
Oh, I rolled one of the
Yeah.
10s again. I didn't roll the second one. Okay.
Okay.
Damn it.
All of you hold firm, No problem. If David's making that roll, by the way, he's -3 dice. So if he's reduced to a chance roll, no, he got one. That's impressive. He stands there, and you can see the fear writ in his eyes, but he refuses to give in to it. For the Darklings, it's entirely too close to home, but at the same time, it's sort of, the devil you know, as it were, as these things rush past you. Iris, the touch of these things as they slide past you is greasy and just horrendous, but you're strong enough to stand through it. It's not something you'll want to do again soon. Slowly, they begin to contract inwards until they entirely surround David in a whirling mass of darkness, which begins to contract in on itself. He almost involuntarily crouches away from it a little, and then it will collapse rapidly into a ball about the size of a tennis ball, with him inside, from what you can tell. And the ball will sort of drop to the ground, bounce slightly, and then roll across the floor, bounce up onto the dais, and then bounce into the Queen's hand. And she will hold it out towards Cammy. Your prisoner.
She'll take a deep breath, step forward, and take the ball from her.
Your king will know what to do with it.
She'll nod, slip it into her pocket.
The Queen will look towards Iris, and she will say, Iris Weft, step forward, please.
And she'll do so.
I recognize your bravery. It is important that we all remember that bravery is not the absence of fear. That it is not possible to be brave unless one is afraid. Therefore, bravery is the province of this court. And you exemplify in this case. Cannot have been easy for you to stand against the Iron Spear.
I did not have to do so alone.
She nods. Your valor is recognized in service to your court. I will be watching.
And Iris will nod. Charlemagne also helped in this matter.
She nods again and says, I shall also note this. The jester type that came in ahead of her will sort of dance out of the corner where she's been sort of standing and bow low before the Queen, and she will turn towards you and lay. You don't know where she got it, because she can't have pockets in that suit. But she lays a necklace of thin bones around your neck. It hangs to just below your sternum, basically. And then she bows deeply and, very, very gracefully and backflips away from him.
And Iris is going to go and sit down again.
Okay. The Queen looks to all of you and says, and actually, first she'll look to Cammy and Devin, and she will say, I thank you for your forbearance, emissaries of the Iron Spear.
I ain't saying they're looking at her like, okay. But there's definitely that look of, okay.
And then she will bow to the rest of you and she will say, and thank you all for being in attendance. And then she just sort of disappears. And the jester basically goes, woo, and cartwheels around the dais for a moment and then backflips off down the hallway.
Because that's what Athletics 5 gets you.
That and being a dancer Ferris.
Okay, nice.
There you go. So, yeah, that's all my people out of the room. You guys are good to talk to each other. And Johnny has stepped away for a moment, but she'll be right back. Well, actually, you know what? No, I still have my antiquarian there, just in case.
I think Iris would probably want to talk to the summer people, but we can wait until Johnny gets back for that. So, what do you guys want to do?
Sebastian will probably wait for Will, but he'll since Iris was pretty much seemed to be involved in the thing, he will look to Iris and well, he's made of shadows, but you will see something that looks like a smile on his face, like a genuine smile.
Hello.
Johnny's back.
I had to stir my mac and cheese. Once the proceedings start to die down and things like that, Dr. Morgan's going to walk over to Soren and look down at him as he is sitting. And he'll raise a brow at him and he's like, "Did you catch that scandal?"
Yeah, I don't know if that's bad for me or bad for them.
He'll kind of think on it for a moment. He'll ponder. In about a year, it'll be bad for them. Right now, it's bad for you. I'm not saying I don't trust your abilities. I'm not saying that. He'll kind of give him a grin. It's no disrespect.
Seeing Iris talking to, well, someone that looks like another Darkling, Sebastian will move to the group. He'll say good evening.
Just as Soren was about to say something, he just kind of turns and looks at the other Darkling. Kind of tilts his head a little curiously at him. Good evening.
And he'll say, "My name is Sebastian Crowley."
Soren Dreamstrike. He'll extend his hand to you.
He'll extend his hand, and
Okay.
then we'll look to Iris and we'll say, you are
Iris Weft.
pleased to meet both of you. And he'll say, did either of you happen to notice who the Queen was talking to?
What do you mean?
And he'll smile and she'll say, at the beginning of the trial, she seemed to be talking to somebody that I could not spot. Someone
I suppose
that
we're invisible Hobbs.
Sorry, what was that?
Well, Hobbs come in lots of different sizes and shapes, so I suppose there could be invisible ones.
Tim, I messaged you. Notice me, senpai.
And he'll say, mate.
Or, you know,
Just,
ghosts or something. It is the Autumn Court. I wouldn't be hugely surprised.
And he'll just look to the Queen and say yes. I'll have to investigate more myself, if I want to know.
If you'll excuse me, I'm going to see if I can talk to the summer people before they leave.
And he'll make a head gesture, and he'll say,
As interesting as that would be, I think I would be more of a hindrance to you in that regard. So I'll hang back when y'all do that.
And Iris is just going to kind of wander over towards the summer people.
And so Soren will eavesdrop.
Yeah. We're all eavesdropping, we know it.
Yeah, probably keep talking.
Like
to
Mira's
the
standing behind Will, like, what happened?
and meanwhile, Sebastian will be moving to Will Morgan.
Yeah, but yeah, she's going to go over to try and speak to Cammy.
She'll look at her. It's not quite it. The look is very similar to the one she has in the picture right now. You have a way of eliciting that from people. Yeah, it's just that look of I notice you.
I wanted to check that you were aware of the potential issues with the summer courtier, the water elemental.
I'm aware, thank you. There's a certain level of acceptability to one's actions we allow in the summer court. And if she's going to continue on her behavior, she's going to find herself not a member of the summer court.
Iris nods. And then, unless Cammy says something, she's just going to walk back to the Darklings.
Yeah, she doesn't follow anything up with that.
Pardon?
She doesn't follow anything up with that.
No, but she was literally just making sure that the summer court knew.
Yeah, they are aware, and if her behavior doesn't change, it's too much like the gentry for them to accept her being among them.
Yeah.
So
And
she's going to find herself in a different court or courtless.
so, as Iris starts to find her way back to the Darkling, she'll notice one Darkling's missing. But then that Darkling will just kind of come up from some random direction. We're entirely sure he'd even left.
It's a Darkling.
And almost as if to kind of preserve something else, Soren will just kind of say, "So, how'd that go?"
As well as can be expected. I just wanted to check that she was aware of the elemental.
Seen as well.
Because I haven't spoken with any of the summer court about it, and it's worrying enough that everyone needs to know. Just in case.
I'm amazed, honestly, they took her in if that's her behavior.
They might not have known.
They might have seen her as a pet project as well. Someone you could build up over time.
Why, yes, of course, the Court of Wrath is obviously the best suited for this task. He'll just kind of rub his face like, good lord, why?
Well, I mean, things like the Count of Monte Cristo, you save up all this time hoping for your vengeance, but it's very much a long game kind of thing.
Yeah, but he ended up coming out on top in the end.
Yeah. Didn't say that it has to work every time.
He's kind of sitting in one of the chairs, like backwards, with like his arms resting on the back.
So, Queen Mir, she's an interesting one.
His eyebrow will rise as he looks at him when he says that.
If he wants to roll wits empathy, or if anyone wants to roll wits empathy, they can go ahead.
Why aren't I playing Donati right now? He has such a high pool.
Okay, I'll just give it to him if you want.
I mean, he's got a decent pool. It's like 5, but
One
No,
success.
that's it.
I got 2
That's-
successes. Sorry.
2?
I thought it was only 8 success.
Yeah, it's 8. It's 8 and up, unless he has a thing that gives him one
Wasn't
bonus
that an
success.
8 and a 9?
I saw an 8 and a 7, but
Yeah.
There was more dice than that. There was
oh,
like 5 of them.
okay.
Yeah, there was an 8 and a 7. But yeah. Either way, one success.
Soren's always kind of come off as one that's kind of like, about nobility and titles and all that. Like, for the first time since like anyone's really seen him, like this is the first of like the real nobility that Soren genuinely is impressed upon. If that makes any sense. It may be because Darkling and Darkling, but yeah.
The Springboard's like, we like you, we want you to stay here. And then he goes and sees the Autumn Court, and he's like,
Essentially, this is amazing.
Yeah. The Autumn Court, unless we want you, and more. Yeah, you probably belong here.
He'll smile at realizing that you mean nothing untowards to the queen, and he'll settle down a little. Sorry, the man is
eyebrows and salt. Okay.
No,
Oh yeah,
he didn't
no,
get
like
salt. It was just one of those. It's one of those. He's a paladin of shadows, and so automatically there was salt. And then he was like, "Oh, okay, wait, no, he's fine."
yeah, no, like he was doing the exact opposite of insulting. He was like,
Identify threat.
he was like, my queen. Oh my god, this is amazing. Well, more. It's purely because of the fact of how calmly and how just effortlessly she seemed to manage the whole situation.
Let's just put it like this: Trudeau's had shots for a whole hour because of how badly Juan overreacted to this.
Oh my.
Again, they have a shot hour whenever one of the kings or queens overreacts.
I thought it was just a shot.
No, it's like a whole hour where shots are free. If one of the kings or queens overreacts.
I feel like a lot of.
Song Shots by LMAFO. I shit you not, they really do that.
Yeah.
They had one of those for Juan today. So are we basically done here and want to pull into another scene if you guys want to do an open?
Probably. I think Iris has one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
It seems the Summer Court may not be best pleased with us at the moment. And there were issues between the spring and the winter. But how is our standing with winter and spring ourselves?
Yeah, who are you asking? Or are you just asking out in general?
She's mostly asking Dr. Morgan.
Oh, okay. With us in winter, we always enjoy a fairly amicable relationship. With spring, honestly, Lucas Adair keeps us, and he keeps us apprised of the things that we need to know that sometimes we can come to loggerheads about. I'll be honest, I don't we don't agree with some of the problems that the winter and the spring are facing right now. I can't understand why it's such an issue. And that is a sentiment that is echoed through most of the court. It's I'm just grasping at straws trying to figure out what both courts are thinking right now. I
Other, other than the fact that they're not getting on greatly, I don't really understand what the situation is.
well, from an outsider's perspective, Queen Alicent of the Spring Court. You guys can give me a wit sympathy roll if you want.
Soren's already kind of heard Will's opinion of Alicent, so this is just probably to get more info. But I mean, he has a pretty good understanding from their last conversation.
Crap, because you didn't roll nothing. I'm just kidding. What did you other two have?
One.
You have one success, and then Nelson, what did you get?
3.
Yeah, man, he don't like that bitch. It's that simple. Yeah, Iris, he had a when he spoke Alicent's name, he had a bitter tone to his voice. Nelson, when he said her name, he couldn't have possibly said it with any more loathing.
Okay.
But he'll say after Alicent's death, there was the current king was chosen by unseen forces, essentially the force of what fuels us. Well, you. Sorry, I forget. He's just a faith touch mortal, so he's like, you. There are many who echo that he is not the best for the job, but he is what was chosen. Now, the first year that a new Spring Court monarch is in power, their homecoming rites are extremely important. It cements their position as the homecoming monarch. He came back on the darkest night of the year, which is the solstice, which is the shift in power between the autumn court and the winter court. The winter court obviously must carry out the rites of solstice and the changing of power, or honestly not sure what would happen if it didn't. I imagine it could be either catastrophic or... He looks as though he doesn't want to entertain the thought, because there's really no way to say what would happen, because nobody does it.
Could simply be 3 more months of autumn, but I can understand winter not being happy with about
Can a young dark like antiquarian get a intelligence occult with lost lore specialty at a huge ass penalty to see the possibility?
Do that. You do that.
No penalty.
No penalty.
No penalty.
Do it.
Oh, sweet.
Do it.
6, 7. Come on.
Exactly what your thing is all about. Your specialty and all that.
I'm hoping and I'm praying. Is one? Rerolling? Okay, it's only one.
Yes, you have one success. This is when you have like summer and Christmas type seasons. What happens is essentially it meteorologically, whatever it is, essentially skips the season, and it's what can cause, for instance, is winter not happening, essentially, it being a very unseasonably hot winter or an unseasonably cold summer. What it can do in the courts itself is start wars and cause people to die, and yes.
And you would be aware of the fact that according to legend, at least, the seasonal flow of power amongst the different courts somehow is said to protect the lost from the gentry.
because they don't understand the giving up of power.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but he didn't get enough successes for that.
Yeah.
It could also possibly kill the monarch, but we don't know that part either. That's one of those, like, maybe not, whatever.
So basically, it's meteorology. So in terms of weather, seasons get fucked up. in terms of us, we may lose some of our protection against the true Fae.
And people get fucked up. Yep.
People get fucked up. It could kill the monarch of one or other court, and it could cause turmoil. So it doesn't happen. It cannot happen, essentially. I mean, it can happen, but fuck.
The Spring Court Monarch can't not have a homecoming, especially in their first year. And the flow of power from one court to the other can't stop.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's why Will is basically like, that's why the two courts are all but at war right now, because
Well, what I haven't been here long enough to know the rights of the various courts particularly well, but what do they actually need to do?
well, I don't know how homecoming works, but with the autumn to winter exchange, the autumn court chooses a champion. Last year it was me. It may be me again this year. We're not quite sure. And the winter court chooses a champion, and we have some sort of a show, some sort of a contest. Last year it was to produce the most glorious token. In years past, it was find a particular item in the goblin market before the other. Scavenger hunts. It's been contests of will and fighting. When the Autumn Court had to come into power last year, I had to face the champion of the Summer Court. Thank God I won. It was by a hair's breadth, but still. But usually, one of the Paladins of Shadow will stand as the champion of the court, and will oversee the competition. We'll see that the competition goes through. This year, when winter changed to spring and the king came into power, Princess no, he doesn't. I'm sorry, it's Claudia. Princess Bella was considered.
Iris is going to kind of flinch.
Princess Bella was the.
If anyone wants to roll their wits empathy, they can, but she's basically going to flinch quite markedly. Understanding why it might be difficult, but everyone be able to notice that she does.
Your kith pretty much imposes upon everyone a -1, right?
Yes, -1.
Yeah, you're gonna have to remind us of that one.
Yeah, I need to remember that myself.
That's a single one, so it does not.
Oh my
God. Clearly, something she's not just flinching in general. She's flinching about something he said, quite a marked reaction of a flash of revulsion mixed with fear.
Okay. He won't comment on that for right now.
Yeah, he'll continue on though, because unfortunately that's not the character that knows about that. Trigger warning, Princess. He'll keep going. He'll say, Princess Bella this year was the magnum opus of the Spring Court. It was said that the way that the king cared for her, had taken her in and accepted her as his own daughter and raised her, was a mark of his show in the competition, and then that he should be king, and it was accepted. The court artist at the time, she had been suffering from a bout of artist block. She didn't really produce anything, and then at the time she had realized that Bella was the art. Bella was the he'll kind of roll his hands as though it's Spring Court. I don't get this shit.
So
you understand.
You said you don't understand the homecoming, and that at the changing of the seasons there needs to be a competition. Does the new season need to win?
Yes.
So they need to choose something that they will beat you on.
Yes.
What
How does
if
Now,
does-
they have lost before. If they lose, there's another competition in 2 weeks. You know the whole
So,
Groundhog Day thing? It's kind of like that.
and that explains a lot of the seasons coming in at later and earlier times. Okay. Soren just nods and like he's connecting all of this shit from like his life before with this now. And he's like, I understand.
so the
Then
challenge
he'll
is to take place. What
my
else needs to
oh,
take place? Is there any other requirements?
No. Thankfully, no.
this
Honestly,
is
what's tearing this apart is that the Spring Court has neither an archive nor do they have an emissary to the Winter Court. The emissary of the Winter Court has been sitting open since the last one passed away. It was a very sad death. He passed away, what, I think 3 years ago now? He was quite an older man. Nobody knows what happened to the archive of the
He
Spring
left.
Court.
He left,
Well,
and they've been trying to investigate and not gotten very far.
he'll kind of look at her as though, how did you know that? But he'll just kind of scratch behind his ear like, yeah, that.
And
and
nobody knows if it's connected with the Queen or not.
Well, I mean, it was her lover.
Yes. But
Who else would have motivation to kill her?
he could have left because he was afraid he would be next. He could have left because they had a fight and then she was killed before she could tell anyone about it. There are many possibilities. The problem is we don't know. And the problem is they don't know.
It's very true.
There's many holes in the fort.
There are. It's true. It's very true. There are.
Holes too big to be easily sewn together. I was commenting that they needed a patch.
Soren for the past few minutes has looked very deep in thought. I'm sorry, Nelson, did I cut you off?
yeah, so I was yes,
Oh, you're very, very muffled.
Sebastian will look to Dr. Morgan and will say, how does one come?
You're speaking, but I can't understand.
Oh, that's weird. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. He asks, how does a Paladin of Shadows become a champion?
Well, it's usually between me and the other two Paladins of Shadow. We'll just it's whoever Mir decides to choose as her champion that year.
And he smiles and he
Who decides
says,
the challenge?
I do.
So,
Oh, it's whoever's coming into. Okay, so let's say with Winter, then Winter would choose the challenge. To Summer, I choose the challenge. If I were the Paladin, if I were the champion that year.
okay. So for this whole... After we're done with this, I have a few other questions I have, but...
And Sebastian will say, how does one become a Paladin of Shadows?
Oh dear. The Queen essentially appoints you as the Paladin. She has to be impressed with your ability to your fighting finesse, is it?
Well, it goes very well, thanks.
I mean, it requires a couple of other things. You need to have a watchful eye, be able to guard the Queen. Um, it was not easy for me to become a Paladin of Shadow because I'm not one of the Lost. I have only had the influence of the others in my life.
Who in the Winter Court do you think would be arranging the celebration on their part for the passing of the seasons?
It's probably. Do you mean who's going to be their challenger, or who is arranging the 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 ceremony itself?
The ceremony. If the problem between the spring and the winter courts is their ceremonies, if we can find out the details of what each has planned and the parts that they are unwilling to compromise and the parts that could be adjusted, it's possible both celebrations could go together.
To be honest, I don't know who's planning it.
Iris will nod.
Okay.
Do you know what? You know what? I think I remember Draven saying to me that his new boyfriend is working on this. He's dating. He'll kind of roll his hand and he's like, Malik. That's it.
Malik Crownsguard.
Yes.
Yes, he's currently working on attaining the position of being the Winter Court emissary.
I don't envy him.
Was he there at the bar the other night?
Yes, he was.
Out of game, he was the one that was trembling behind Draven.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Out of character, I know this. In character, Iris only kind of vaguely remembers the people's names.
Yeah, no, Soren will just say, yes, he was valiantly watching Draven's blind spot. He's a brave man for what he did. To kind of cover for him.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Someone start the quote board right now and make that one. Do it, I'll give you an XP point.
Okay,
Don't
hold
all
on.
run.
I'm gonna make one now. I'm gonna make one.
That's the first one.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You play Galliards a lot, don't you, Tim?
No, actually, the one that I'm playing right now is my first Galliard. Okay, to put it into perspective, my first World of Darkness game was Vampire.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You just went Obi-Wan on us there. It's all from a certain point of view.
Yep.
Anyway. Okay. So.
I think this whole situation is just needless strife and drama, and will end hopefully soon enough. Maybe I should press upon the Queen as to whether I can be the champion this year. He'll kind of reach his hand out for a minute. He'll kind of like grab, like he's reaching for a grub, like one of the drudges.
Oh. I thought you were talking about like
No.
slimy but satisfying.
Yeah, he'll kind of pull one of the drudges over.
Uh-huh.
Politely, not like a fucking jackass.
Right.
And he'll say, "Can you please tell the queen that her paladin of shadows, William Morgan, would like to speak to her at her earliest convenience.
As you wish, my lord.
Thank you." And he'll let go of him.
So, is that pretty much the scene?
You guys want to keep going and maybe start another scene, or you just want to end it here?
I think probably
I had
end it.
we can end it here. Soren has a few more questions, but we can do it in
One
another
of,
scene. 'Cause
one of
this
the
one's-
things I wanted to ask you, is if Soren wanted to meet the queen herself.
he probably would. Um,
Probably best to do that in another scene.
Yes, that's what I'm going to ask
Okay.
you. Can we start another scene so you can do that? And anybody else who wants to do it too, they can.
Yeah, Sebastian would be interested in
Since
meeting her.
you're all Autumn Court members who have yet to meet your queen. So,
I've met her.
well, yeah, you met her, but you don't count ever. No, I'm just kidding. I love
Oh,
you. I love you.
Hey!
And to be
I'm
fair,
playing with you.
I have probably met her at least once before, just to.
But the other two haven't. So, can we start another scene where we do that?
You guys can. I think
Yep.
Iris is going to be having a think about this whole winter-spring issue.
Okay. I would recommend that you find Anthony and scene with him because he's trying to handle it and play.
Yeah.
Get some scenes on the board.
Also Matt.
Huh?
Also Matt and Claudio. I think that's her plan. Is the three of them.
Okay. Claudio's a good person to talk to too.
Mhm.
If you can pull that scene together tonight, then I'll try to jump into it. If not, then I'm gonna try to do a scene with these two with the queen.
Cool.
So we have the other storyteller here.
You know?
So I'm gonna. Oh wait, you know what? We gotta stop the scene. Bye.